Today on the show, strategy plus action equals the future of coworking. This show is powered by Black Ginger. If you'd like to shorten your sales cycle and build a foundation that makes all of your other sales and marketing initiatives better, reach out to us on LinkedIn. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to episode 5 of Strategy and Action with Nadim Ahmed. Jonathan, what's happening?
Nothing much, man. Excited about this one.
I wanted to shoot this quick intro with you here. This is an interview I did earlier in the year with Nadim Ahmed. He owns really the first franchise of VentureX co-working space. He's got the VentureX Galleria area in Dallas, Texas. I was so impressed with both the place, the space, and all of that when I first went in there a couple of years ago, and really impressed with what Nadim has put together there. And what I wanted to get in with him, and you and I had kind of talked around as well, as the evolution of co-working, right? So
Exactly.
we get into that in this episode a bit. That's, how do we go beyond just maybe a place where, just another version of office space and actually become something bigger? And do you have to in these times, right?
It's coming up just because of the impact of COVID, the number of companies that have had to have their companies work from home or have their employees work from home. My brother is working at home full time. They've got an entire office that's empty. And a couple of the things he misses is collaborating with the other people that are there and being able to bounce ideas and feeling like this team and this collective. And so it's presented a new opportunity for co-working spaces.
Yeah, and then we even get to kind of the last half of the interview is digging into what could this be, right? In terms of maybe VentureX specifically, but even just the idea of co-working going forward is the idea of getting beyond just a place to have an office as a freelancer or small business owner, but actually have this collective, right? So there's you would go to VentureX, for instance, for all your business needs, or 6 of them, right? But the individuals working there, like, this is their specialty, this is his specialty, this is her specialty, and they know that they're all working together in a business development capacity as well, just to bring that business in. And so it starts to become a little bit of the best of both worlds of you're your own boss, your own business and all of that, but you're also not having to wear the sales hat and the marketing hat and all of that. So it's an interesting, collective that could be generated here.
Yes. Yeah, I think it definitely has potential to be something huge. Even just from what you're saying, like, I know one of my things, I don't have patience to design logos and build websites. And so you get into a room and there's a person that does that. You're working right one-on-one and, building these websites, and maybe some clients overlap. And so you guys are supporting each other as a community inside of the co-working space. So that is powerful as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited for everybody to check out this interview. So let's get started with Nadim Ahmed. I'm here with Nadim Ahmed of VentureX by the Galleria. How's it going, Nadim?
It's good. Thanks for having me here. I'm excited.
Absolutely. Awesome. Yeah, we almost reconnected a couple of weeks ago there while I was back in Dallas, and been to your place a number of times for different meetups and all of that. So impressed. So that's why we kind of reconnected. Wanted to have a potential shoot there and everything. And so we got a chance to catch up a couple of weeks ago briefly. And I was going to do this episode there in person, had the shoot worked out, because I want to highlight you and what you've done there with this VentureX franchise, but also for the viewers here, going through the middle of the insanity that we're going through with COVID and all that nonsense, and kind of have a working session here to figure out what do we do differently in the co-working space? So I'm excited to have you on. Give me a little bit of background though on what kind of led you to. Gosh, was this 2-3 years ago you got VentureX?
Yeah, it's only been 2 years, and it started in April 2018. We actually doubled the size in January 2019. So we've been doing fairly decent till this whole COVID. I'm sure a lot of people can say the same thing till this whole COVID thing happened, and we're fine, but and we're going through it, and we'll talk more about all that later. But yeah, I mean, I started in 2018. Right now we have about 24,000 square foot. And the idea was I wanted to create a great atmosphere for people to work in. I saw there was a change in how people were working. Of course there was the WeWorks and then just co-working spaces, and people were actually caring about where they work, not just get in there 9 to 6 and get out and go back home. And people cared about how their home looked, but no one really paid attention to how the experience in the work, where they actually need to be live and have the energy. That was important. So
sorry to interrupt really quick, but I don't know if you remember, but I remember a conversation with you that helped me put the whole co-working, like owning a co-working space into perspective. Honestly, I remember us having a conversation way back then, because I'm hearing them in the mindset of just like another co-working space, right? Like you see them, like we were in the middle of, of course WeWorks dominating all but the little ones as well. And then in the middle, you've got VentureX, which is a franchise model that you jumped into, and you're like, yeah, but there's regular office space everywhere you look, and nobody's stopping that, And I was like,
it seems like
that makes sense.
Honestly, I mean, even though it doesn't look like it right now with COVID, I believe, and a lot of people believe in the industry, that it's actually going to be more of it, even more than now. It was going crazy before the COVID, but it's not going to stop. I mean, even now there's more inquiries of it. It's just, like we were talking about, there's office spaces. It's really, people need to still work. It's just now, instead of calling it office space or even calling it co-working, it may be called fully managed office space, fully serviced, because that's how time works. It's as time goes on, people get segregated into their specialties, and our specialty is managing a workspace. And companies like Pepsi or Toyota, they don't want to be managing their workspace or paying the long-term lease terms and buying furniture and all that stuff. That's not their specialty or their core. So more and more companies are going towards that. And the COVID has been helping with that, because the little things it has done is that people are just afraid to take that risk of buying furniture, 10-year leases, and if they don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, if they're going to downsize or grow. So we just provide that flexibility, really. So I think there's more going in the future. So.
Oh yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think it's a different group of folks who go into that, and add to who were there before. But what was your background before, and what led you into it?
I guess so. I before this, I just took businesses to market for corporations. So I did electrical engineering and my MBA as well, at both at Purdue, and worked at some pharmaceutical companies, and then I basically took products to market, got some patents and stuff like that. But mainly I was in the business side, like looking at the competitors, seeing what price point would work, how much are we going to have to spend to make this product work, and then conveying it to the execs, getting a budget approved, and then working with engineers to develop the product and launch it in the market. So a lot of like business strategy or product management type of roles. And my last job was with Children's Hospital. I like my job. It's just it was kind of like playing with poker chips versus like real money, right? I want to like integrate myself into the life versus just passing by, and it's like trying to do something between life and death. I'm trying to just take more out of life if I can. I guess a lot of entrepreneurs try to do that, right? So yeah, I figured why not just take a chance. And of course, I did my research, and I didn't want to get into something that was a Me Too product. Like you mentioned, there's so many co-working spaces. So I had wanted to do this in 2012, but didn't want to create something that was just as good. I didn't want to have the response where customers come to me and is like, well, why should I come to you if these guys are better? Because of my background, I always wanted to provide something that is not out there and that is providing value to customers, and that's important to me. So I didn't do it then because WeWork was offering better products or just as good as what I would have done myself. So I didn't do it in 2012. 2016, VentureX started franchising. I was pretty much like the first one to sign a franchise. And the reason I did that is because I saw there was a trend of not only like the tech companies or the millennials going to co-working spaces, but even corporate and traditional people going into co-working spaces. And there was a need for not just the cool, dingy type of feel co-working, but also professional people want to work there and feel comfortable and not feel out of place. So VentureX was a great design by Gensler, and then they made it feel boutique, homey, and more professional, and like clean lines and stuff like that. And then the other aspect was, as a franchise owner, I'm in here day to day working with our members. I give business to my members. Of course, they're giving business to me, and we try to work together. It's a community. It's like, there are so many types of communities, especially now with COVID. There's churches, there's schools, and for grown-ups that work, co-working is their, for a lot of them, is their community. We hang out and we work together. So as a franchise owner, I'm in here working with them, and I could relate as an entrepreneur as well with them, versus in the other places, the corporate guys are back in New York City or whatever. So, it's hard to tell them about your problems or stuff like that, especially during something like COVID. So those kind of differentiators made me want to start VentureX. So yeah, I quit my job and started this in April 2018, 1 week after my third son was born. So it's a crazy year. Yeah. He was about to be born at the same day as my grand opening, which was going to be a little crazy. So yeah, but yeah, luckily he was
Let's
born.
do it all at once,
Yeah,
come on.
I like that. Like some psychiatrist, not that I was in therapy or anything, but a psychiatrist just was talking to me one time, and she was like, I think you function better with stress. Like some people are just better with stress. Like people are just more alive and work better. And I kind of find that to be true. Like, with this COVID, like it is a stressful time for everyone, unfortunately. But there are values we can provide people. That's what makes, I don't do it. I mean, for the money, yes. That I have 3 kids and wife and family, but I do it, and I think the reason I like business is because it's a win-win situation. I'll help you win, and then in return you help me win, either by giving me money or exchanging something in return. So Some people see it as a win-lose, but I think the more businesses we do, everyone will be better off, because it is more of a win-win type of thing than, hey, give me your money and you get nothing in return. It's not like that.
Or I get the most out of you I possibly can.
And I don't believe in that. And same thing with this business. If I'm going to offer you something, in the end of it, yes, you're going to give me money, but I want you to be happy. It's like, oh, this was worth my investment into this co-working space.
Right, and especially a model like co-working is something that, because you need them to say yes every single month, right? Every single lease, whatever that is. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Agreed. So, so I mean, that's the goal. And even with this COVID, we need more help from each other, and that's why you see like working together and things like that. So there are going to be opportunities. There are going to be businesses that are going to thrive during these times, just because we have the need. Before we used to create needs by making like, for example, no one wanted tablets and iPads and Apples, but Steve Jobs just created that. I mean, when he first did a marketing survey, people are like, oh, tablets are such a waste, because who's going to use their fingerprints and mess up their monitor and watch it? Like, no one wanted that. and then they thought it was a bad idea, and no one even saw a need for that, and he just created that, and it became a need. So there was times when we had to create a need, create a market for something, which costs a lot of money. In today's time with COVID, we don't have to create a need. There are a lot of needs that we have now. We don't need to market anything like disinfecting or just so many things that there's a need for: safety, health, medicine, that we don't have to be the next Steve Jobs and create something new. We just solve the problems that we have now.
Yeah, you just listen, right? Like you just pay attention and listen. Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly. Of course, it's bad, but we look at the silver lining. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love your space there. It's really interesting because when I went, so I think the first time I was there, I didn't know it was a franchise model. It's really an interesting feeling there because you get the I guess the established, like, hey, this is real, this is legit, that you get from a WeWork, right? And honestly, like WeWork, I think they do a great job from, in the spaces, and they've got those things. And yeah. But then but there's a customization. And you said that, and it brought this to mind when you said, that boutique feel and stuff, because it does feel like that. It doesn't feel like the same thing I'm going to walk into. Like with WeWork, it looks great and established, but it's the same feeling every single one, where I think there's a humanness and texture to that Venture X without going all the other way, which I've been into some that are so small and the one-offs, and you're like, oh, okay, they've cobbled this thing together, right? You feel that, and it's fine. So I think there's a great blend there, and I think I'm sure that's kind of what you get out of both, having your own spot, but also being a part of that larger franchise kind of setup.
Right, and exactly. So that's why I wanted to have all the benefits that they can have with a big corporate thing. Just the best sides of both worlds, right? As a VentureX member here, yes, I was the first one, but now there's like 50 locations, and so as a member here, you could go to any of those locations, work from uptown. If you're from Dallas, then uptown, or Legacy West, or we have it in Colorado and as well, or just. I think we have like 50 some locations globally, including India, Costa Rica, London, Canada, Mexico. Mexico's not built yet, but yeah. So it's in the last two and a half years, is grown extremely exponentially fast. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. You were sharing with me last week or whatever. You were at like 95% capacity before.
Oh right.
The nonsense hit.
Yeah.
And I really, I've been sort of applying the brainstorming, to this, and I've got other friends who, have co-working spaces. It's like there's got to be a new market for this, right? Corporations, you've gone after them in the past of like, hey, either overflow or as an alternative. Right. Have them come into the co-working space, build out, have big, larger clients, right? As well as startups and all of that. I think for a startup model, during all of this, certainly, okay, well, they go home, it kind of works and makes sense. But there's a ton of people and a ton of companies where it doesn't make sense to go home. Like, it's not an option. It's not great. So are there opportunities, I guess, to sort of stand out as this special safe zone, if you will? You're not going back into Gen Pop, of a big corporation. Yeah. But you can be, here's the safety measures, here's all of this. Is some of that kind of the thought process going on right now?
Yeah, for sure. Of course, we're taking all the precautionary measures we can right now. We have we do this like fogging spray stuff that disinfects the entire space. Of course, taking out some of the chairs and cancel some of our events. Have the standard the hand sanitizers and signs everywhere, masks. So we're doing what we can, just like most businesses are. And but in the future, to your point let me address the one with the enterprises and corporations. So there seems to be a lot of their interest has risen because of this whole, because, like we were talking earlier, there's millions of square foot of office space. So it looks like co-working is a lot, but it's nothing compared to actual amount of market there is. And so all those people are now looking for co-working spaces. So for them, for us, this is huge. But for them, where they had like 50,000 square foot, this is downsizing. They could come to something like this where they have flexibility. They could have some people in the suburb and some people in downtown of Ventrex. And then it's just month to month, as they grow, they could add more people, things like that. And you don't have a long-term lease. You don't have to worry about, again, like I said earlier, worry about capital, furniture, investments, IT, just all that stuff. So it is growing for the enterprises and corporations. It's just really a matter of time. Once you get the vaccines and stuff like that, we will see more entrepreneurs. As the market changes, you will see a lot of freelancers and entrepreneurs just coming to the market to solve all these problems. And so, the market was headed that way anyway. Pre-COVID you saw a lot of freelancers and a lot of people doing their own thing because of just the possibilities we have now with Google Ads or with whatever we have now. But I think post this is just people need to be more agile, more just provide the needs that you have instead of being a big company where you can't be as agile. You have a lot of waste and stuff like that. So
yeah, I think it's interesting. So are you doing anything right now to kind of purposefully go after and get in front of more of the corporations and enterprise level?
We've always done the corporations with corporate brokers and stuff, but for the entrepreneurs, some of the things we do now is we intentionally make sure that we all are working together. I don't force anyone to do anything, but for example, like we have a video studio here that if you're a member here, we make a free commercial for you, which is great during this whole COVID time. When you can't meet face to face, just send them a video that we make for you at no cost, just professional. And we have green screens, we have like the infinity walls, LEDs and stuff like that. So
nice.
That's just an example. And then of course we have discounts with like if you want business cards or if you want to connect with the accountant who's right across the hallway, he's going to give you a discount on doing your bookkeeping and stuff like that. So we were trying to just push more of that, of making sure the community is working together more. Let's come together and help each other out.
Yeah, and I think that's been the promise of co-working
right
since its inception a little bit in there's different manifestations of it, right? Like I think different properties have done that. I was a part of one in Grapevine,
right.
The Lyft office out there, and they did a phenomenal job of that, right? Like really, you knew everybody, you knew what they did. And it was all set up to where you would interact, right? And I think the setup there, it sounds like you've got a very purposeful community approach there as well, which is a great benefit. And I think again right now leading with that, and maybe the idea too, even COVID aside, maybe the idea on the entrepreneur side is almost an exclusivity approach, right? Like this isn't just come get a desk. Like we're not looking for someone who's looking for a desk. We're looking
right.
We want to fill this hole in our community, right? Can you fill that? Almost certain places have done and certain groups have done, like, hey, this is, you got to apply, Yeah. That could be an interesting approach there because I think you're set up for that so well in the area that you are, the beautiful spot that you have there, and then just the existing members. It could be an interesting approach.
Yeah. It's something far-fetched that I always think, kind of like to your point, is like maybe we get to a point where instead of corporations, you're just working part of a co-working space where you provide an entire service, so a bunch of freelancers get together and build a community, and then we provide this whole marketing service to you or this finance service to you, but we're really just freelancers all working in the same office building.
And I don't think that's far-fetched at all.
Yeah,
You know?
that'd be ideal. I mean, especially with all these freelancers trying to find support and customers, and a lot of if you're in the same kind of field, you could be vertically integrated where that customer is using everything in that integration,
Right.
from making the flyers to the video.
Or yeah, even the picking and choosing, right? Like, so if, Venture X there, your specific one, becomes this overall business solution, maybe marketing solution, whatever that is, you're coming to us, and then the promise of, hey, yes, come be a member here at the community because we've got work. We need people to fulfill this work. That could be a really, really slick differentiator for sure.
Well, and the reason I think I think it is kind of far-fetched, but at the same time, it can be realistic because there is a need where I think employees, they're just incentivized the wrong way, and it's like, you're there just to punching your hours in, and that worked in the times of factories in the 1920s, but now when businesses and everything is so complex and we work from everywhere, it's almost you almost do a better job as a freelancer. Not saying that people in corporations don't do good jobs. It's just they may not have the same motivation as a freelancer where you're getting paid for your results. And so instead of being an employee in a company, be your own boss kind of thing, do your own thing and get paid for your quality of work, but have the resources of a big corporation by being a part of the co-working space. So I think there is a need for that to eventually get to that point where the corporation or S&P 500 is just a bunch of freelancers doing all these things in the economy versus just the big companies. I don't know, far-fetched kind of idea, yeah.
But again, I don't think it's that far-fetched. I think that's where everything's moving. I think the whole gig economy approach and stuff, because more and more, and it's not an either or, right? It's such a spectrum, right? So because you're going to be in the gig economy doesn't mean you have to go be an Uber driver. Well, no, you can be a freelancer. Only now you've got all the clients you want. You have freedom. You can be as busy and stressed out as you want to be, because some people prefer that, right? Like we were talking about before. Some people operate better under that if they have more deadlines and more pressure. So you can put that on yourself, but to be in control of that, and then there's going to be physical locations like yours. There's going to be entities that provide insurance. There's going to be all of these things that pop up for solutions to those, where it's interesting that you say that, like really this company that's listed somewhere is going to be this group of freelancers, right? Like that's interesting. Right.
And another reason I say that is because we also look and we try hard to build a community and things, and we'll get better at it. I'll get better at it. But we do, like, now we're looking into health insurance for our members, 401k. So we're acting a lot like just the umbrella for all these guys, and we don't own them. They're not our employees. We're exchanging value for value. So I think it's a better relationship. They could leave here. They could still work here, and I mean, well, without going off topic. So going back to the healthcare and stuff, we're trying to provide healthcare and 401ks to our members, and eventually get to a point where we're just providing what you would get as employee, but even customers, we just bring them to you and you do your work. If you're an architect, you're not worrying about going out and selling. We bring the people who need architects here, and all you're doing is drawings and CAD work, as an employee would do. So it will eventually get there, and it was getting there before COVID, and I think with COVID, it's pushing more towards that as well. So
again, like so many other things, we're not going the other way. We're not going to go back down the hill, right?
Right.
It's still going to keep heading that way. We just got progressed. I think there's some with exactly that model you're talking about, and a lot of these folks, these freelancers and entrepreneurs, the dust just needs to settle a little bit. Like, okay, here's what we're doing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're all kind of guessing right now, and but with us working at home now, and you don't have to do as much. Like, I got a job in New York. I have to move to New York now. It's like, hey, I'm just part of this co-working space, but I could still offer my services in New York City. are a part of this community. So you don't have to move and you get away from your family, because you see that a lot. Every job I had to move every time, right? And you see less of that now.
Yeah, that, and there's a legitimacy to, yeah, I'm a freelancer, but here's the world. I'm a part of this Venture X agency community, whatever that might be.
Right.
And then I think, they more than, there's been some of those, but more vertical co-working spaces. So
yeah,
all healthcare, all media, all the, and so then it really becomes this selling point to your individual client as a freelancer to say, yes, I'm a freelancer, but I'm not sitting here in my basement. I'm a part of all of this. Take a look around,
Just like for haircuts, I'd rather go to someone who owns a salon than in their homes or works at a great clips. Nothing wrong with those, but I'm just, because if they've gone to the extent of buying a barbershop, they must know what they're doing, or at least that's a quick way of evaluating it. So same thing, if they're really dedicated to their work, if they've gone through and have an official place and things like that. And to your point of vertical integration, I think we're just in the very beginning of co-working, where like people like me and the others that have started co-working, we're still learning the market. Eventually it'll get to the point where you're saying that it'll be vertically integrated as we segregate more, as like maybe Venture X is just for these kind of people, but that takes time for us to get there. And we're in the beginning of it, where we're just serving all types of people, and eventually we'll get to a point where, you either have this brand for this and this brand for that. So
because there's also, there's a superpower in serving all of these different industries too, because you learn different things from different industries so much. Yeah. So this is awesome. I'm excited for you, man. I just still to be positioned where you are. Seriously, I think there's certainly great frustration in the times that we're in for a lot of things. But there's also, and especially to hear you describe it too, right? It's fertile ground, right? For to really grow something amazing there. So I'm excited, man.
Yeah. Well, no, this was a good conversation. Thanks for the questions and stuff, and thanks for having me here. And I appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you being on. How do people reach out to you directly, learn more about Venture X?
You could obviously check out, just Google Venture X Galleria. You could, my email, I'll give that. It's kind of long, but it's nadim.ahmed@venturex.com, and Nadim is nadim.ahmed@venturex.com. Sorry for the long email. That's my name.
That's perfect. That's great. Right. Thanks so much for being on, and send everybody your way that I can, for sure.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Jason.
Absolutely. Talk to you soon.
All right.
Thanks for listening. You've learned what's working on the front lines of business. Now it's time to get to work. Apply to the Strategy and Action group on Facebook to learn more and for a chance to connect with the guests on this show. Join us next time for Strategy and Action.